Hairi travels to an island called Torishirojima to spend his summer break. While admiring the island's beautiful and peaceful scenery, he notices a butterfly flying gently through the sky. Its movement feels strange yet incredibly mesmerizing, which makes him pause and follow it with his eyes. As he continues to observe his surroundings, his attention is drawn to a girl nearby. He finds her extremely cute and can't help but continue watching her. Shortly after, he finally arrives at his destination on the island and quietly notes to himself that this is his first time ever coming to Torishirojima. Soon, an elderly woman approaches him, and the two engage in a short but pleasant conversation. During their chat, Hairi begins to describe a strange feeling. He explains to the old woman that sometimes he thinks a lot about a place even though he's never actually been there. The elderly woman responds by saying that such a feeling is known as déjà vu, but she ends up butchering the pronunciation completely. Hearing this surprises Hairi, and he laughs a little, suggesting that perhaps she means déjà vu instead. With a chuckle, the elderly woman continues on her way, leaving Hairi to resume his own journey. As he walks, he soaks in more of the island's tranquil views. Eventually, after a long trek and feeling quite tired, he arrives at the place he was meant to go. A woman greets him warmly and brings him a refreshing glass of juice. She introduces herself as Kyoko, and Hairi, recognizing her name, tells her that his grandfather had told him about her. He formally introduces himself and Kyoko smiles before offering to show him to his room. As they walk through the house, she points to a room and remarks that it isn't very large, but it's the best available. Hairi is pleased with it and thanks her sincerely. Kyoko then informs him that another person also lives with them, someone who is part of her family. This surprises Hairi a little, and Kyoko clarifies that this family member is often out and about, but she promises to introduce them to him later. Hairi begins to narrate how Kyoko is, in a way, his aunt, and since she lives on her own, she often gets bored. She needed a family member who had some free time to come and keep her company. Hairi reflects that there is probably no one freer than him at the moment, and since he had the opportunity to visit, he decided to come. He also admits that up until last year, he didn't even have a single moment to spare. Suddenly, Hairi appears to be drowning in the ocean, but moments later he wakes up in a slight panic, and it turns out that he was simply dreaming. In the background, Kyoko is watching television, and Hairi walks over to her. She looks at him and teases that he's slept long enough already. He apologizes for dozing off so much. At that moment, his stomach makes a loud rumbling sound. He's clearly very hungry. Unfortunately, Kyoko hasn't prepared anything to eat yet. Hairi reassures her that she doesn't need to worry so much, but Kyoko gives him the name and location of a restaurant she recommends, saying the food there is excellent. Taking her advice, Hairi heads to the restaurant and places an order. However, when the dish is served, it turns out to be something entirely different from what he had asked for. He tells the owner that he didn't order that particular item, but the shopkeeper explains that it's the only thing available at the moment. With no other choice, Hairi eats what is served to him. After his meal, Hairi starts to head back home. On his way, he notices a lighthouse and is drawn toward it. Meanwhile, a mysterious girl is standing at the top of the lighthouse, although her face is not shown. Hairi realizes that he has lost his way and soon hears a loud sound nearby, the sound of flowing water. As he follows the noise, he finds a swimming pool and decides to take a look. Inside the pool, a girl is holding her breath underwater. As she rises and looks at him, he realizes that she is the same girl he had noticed from the ship when he first arrived. The two lock eyes for a moment, and Hairi finds himself unable to look away. Then the girl speaks, asking him who he is. Hairi introduces himself and asks the girl for her name. The girl thinks for a while and then finally tells him that her name is Shiroha. Hairi then asks her what she is doing there, and Shiroha replies that she is practicing. She then asks Hairi what he is doing out at this time of night and says that she thinks he is lost. Hairi agrees and says that, in a way, what she said is correct. Interestingly, even though Hairi tells her his name, Shiroha can't pronounce it properly. She keeps saying Hairi with a slightly different tone, and although Hairi tries to correct her multiple times, she still can't say it right. After that, Hairi says that he should leave now. As he starts to go, Shiroha tells him the direction back to the house, and Hairi thanks her for the help. Then he gives her some advice, saying that she shouldn't be practicing at night because it can be dangerous since there's no one around for safety. This annoys Shiroha, and she shouts at him in frustration. Hairi, frightened by her reaction, immediately runs away from there. After he leaves, Shiroha starts blushing a lot. Before he left, Shiroha had said the phrase doshikoi to Hairi. Not knowing what it meant, he later asks Kyoko about it when he returns home. Kyoko explains that doshikoi is something people say when someone is unnecessarily bothering or troubling another person, just like Hairi had been doing to Shiroha at that moment, which is why she said it. The next day, Hairi is sleeping. A girl comes to wake him up, saying that it is already morning and he's still in bed. She then introduces herself as Umi, and Hairi realizes this is the other girl Kyoko had mentioned to him earlier. He also introduces himself to Umi. Later, Umi makes fried rice for Hairi. When he sees it, he comments that it looks like fried rice, suggesting she didn't make anything too fancy. Umi, slightly offended, says she made it with a lot of love and asks him not to speak about it like that. Hairi quickly responds that he was only joking and that it actually looks quite nice. Initially, he hesitates to eat it, but once he does, he finds it delicious and genuinely likes its taste. Hearing this makes Umi very happy. Afterward, they begin playing a game of rock, paper, scissors. Umi loses the first round and Hairi wins. Umi insists on playing another round, but Hairi teases her by saying that he is the winner now and doesn't play with losers. This makes Umi quite angry, and they play another round, which Hairi also wins. Umi is surprised at how she keeps losing and wonders how it's even possible. They continue to play, and she loses yet another round, which leaves her feeling very frustrated and deflated. But then finally in the next round, Umi wins and her mood lifts immediately. She becomes very happy and cheerful. Seeing her so happy makes Hairi happy as well, even though he doesn't show it outwardly. After that, Umi says goodbye to Hairi and goes off to pass the time on her own. Meanwhile, Hairi helps Kyoko with some work, but Kyoko tells him that he doesn't need to help her since he has come here to relax and should instead explore the island and enjoy himself a bit. She adds that a special person is going to help him a lot with that. When Hairi sees this person, he is quite surprised and starts wondering if this is really the special person Kyoko was referring to. The girl is seen sleeping under a tree that is planted right beside the road, and Hairi is left wondering what he should even do in this situation. At that moment, a very cute pet, though it's not exactly clear whether it is a dog or something else, but whatever it is, it definitely looks adorable. After this, the girl, still asleep, almost falls over, but Hairi quickly catches her, though his hand ends up in an awkward spot. Just then, the girl wakes up and seeing Hairi so close, gets startled and scared. In her panic, she starts beating him up harshly, then gives him a strong shove that sends him flying a good distance away. Eventually, a conversation begins between them where Hairi introduces himself, and the girl comments that the name Hairi sounds really strange. Hairi responds by saying that there's nothing he can do about it since it was given to him by his parents. The girl then accuses him of being creepy, saying that he was trying to touch her while she was sleeping. Hairi tries to defend himself, saying it wasn't like that and that he had explained everything, but she still refuses to believe him and keeps calling him a creep. Feeling overwhelmed, Hairi says he suddenly remembered he had work to do and needed to leave quickly. The girl, meanwhile, speaks to her pet, either a dog or a cat, and runs off with it, leaving Hairi standing alone. Later, Hairi is seen relaxing by the seashore, enjoying the view. However, his peace is short-lived as strong waves crash over him, soaking him completely and ruining the moment. Then, instead of heading home, changing clothes, or driving anywhere, Hairi is suddenly confronted by a shirtless man. This man tells him that since he's also shirtless, he's in serious danger. Hairi is confused by the warning, but before he can react, he's attacked with a water gun. Shocked, he asks what's going on, and the man explains that in a certain area, people not wearing shirts are being targeted and that he needs to run away quickly. Somehow, Hairi manages to escape and makes it back home, while the shirtless man is left behind and gets hit with a water gun. At home, Umi sees Hairi shirtless and becomes very embarrassed. She scolds him, saying that he shouldn't behave like that. Hairi, brushing it off, says it's not a big deal and that being shirtless is normal. But Umi insists it's not considered normal behavior on the island and tells him to get dressed immediately. Then she remembers something and tells him that a delivery arrived for him. There was a box containing many comic books and a photo. In the photo, Hairi is seen alongside some people wearing swimming costumes. Umi remarks that it seems like Hairi knows how to swim, to which he replies that it's not really the case. After that, Umi leaves and Hairi sits down, lost in thought. When Umi returns to check on him, she finds that he is no longer there. He had gone out again. Hairi is next seen returning to the same swimming pool late at night. Shiroha is there, still practicing. She comes out of the water and thinks to herself that maybe she didn't do too badly this time. She then notices Hairi again and says that he must have gotten lost once more. Hairi replies that's not the case. Just as Shiroha is about to say something, Hairi interrupts and begins giving her advice on how to practice, telling her to stretch her hands out as far as she can and even demonstrating it. Then he takes a single step, quickly says goodbye and leaves. After leaving the pool, Hairi gazes up at the moon and Shiroha also looks up at the moon at the same time. Meanwhile, Umi is also shown looking at the moon during that moment. Umi is shown eating alone and she greets her dad who just arrived from work, but he ignores her. Now that Hairi has started living with them, Umi likes him a lot and Hairi also often praises Umi's cooking. After this, Hairi is riding a scooter somewhere because Kyoko had suggested that he should go out and enjoy himself a little. On the way, he passes by a girl and later reaches the seashore, where he runs into Shiroha again. This time, Hairi tries to leave, but Shiroha stops him to thank him for helping her improve her swimming with his technique. After thanking him, she walks away. Hairi then walks to the sea to pray, thinking about the moment Shiroha had thanked him and all the things she had said. While he is praying, some children show up and start talking among themselves, wondering if he is the person their grandmother mentioned, the one who had lost his wings, and speculate that he might be Lucifer. Confused and a bit annoyed, Hairi asks them what kind of nonsense they are talking about, but the kids just laugh and run off. After that, Hairi notices a lighthouse in the distance and begins walking toward it. He arrives at the lighthouse and sees a girl sitting on top, humming a tune. Hairi curiously asks her what she is doing up there, and the girl replies that she is simply thinking about what to do next. Hairi expresses concern that sitting in such a high place could be risky, but the girl calmly tells him not to worry because she is used to sitting there. After that, Hyrie walks off to another place, and there he encounters the same green-haired girl from before, the one who had attacked him with the water gun. Hyrie refers to her playfully as a shirtless hunter, but the girl gets very angry and warns him not to say such things again or she will beat him up. Her name is revealed to be Mickey. A moment later, another guy arrives and once again begins taking off his shirt. Mickey immediately sprays him with her water gun and scolds him, asking how many times she has to remind him not to remove his shirt in public. She then apologizes repeatedly to Hyrie for spraying him earlier. At that moment, Ryuichi introduces himself. He explains to everyone that they are going to hold a welcome party in honor of Hyrie's arrival and that many people will be joining the event. Hyrie tries to explain that he just came here for a small vacation and that it was supposed to be a quiet, ordinary day for him. But Ryuichi reassures him not to be shy and tells him that they always make their guests feel welcome with warm hearts. After a while, Mickey asks Ryuichi about another member of their group, and Ryuichi suggests that the person might have gone up to the top of the mountain. They decide to send Hyrie to find him. Hyrie sets out on the search even though he has no idea what the person looks like. When he reaches the top of the hill, he comes across a house. As he walks inside, he finds a guy practicing or exercising. The guy notices Hyrie and bluntly asks him who he is and what he is doing there. The two then begin playing table tennis, and Hyrie turns out to be very good at it. He plays so well that he easily wins the match. After losing, the guy becomes even more eager to play another round, clearly fired up by the competition. However, Mickey arrives before they can start the next match and reminds them that everyone is waiting for them outside. The guy then turns to her and asks if now is really the right time to leave and also wants to know who Hyrie actually is. And Hyrie makes a very awkward face and tells the guy that he should have asked him that much earlier. After this, everyone begins celebrating Hyrie's arrival with joy. Then a blue-haired girl appears, the one who had been sleeping in the park, or rather, on the road, and she introduces herself as Ao. When Hyrie and Ao recognize each other, they both get very surprised. The others around them begin to ask if they already knew one another, and the two explain that they had just met by chance once. Following this, someone begins explaining that all of them are members of the youth executive group on the island because there are very few children of their age around, so the youth here usually stick together in harmony. Hyrie then asks about Shiroha, and the others respond by asking if he has met her and whether he knows her. Hyrie replies that he doesn't know her that well. Ao then questions why he is calling her by her first name if he barely knows her. Hyrie replies that he didn't know it was her first name. One of the boys explains that Shiroha doesn't like to go out much and adds that Hyrie should be careful not to bother her. This reminds Hyrie of the earlier swimming pool incident, and he starts making an awkward expression again. From this reaction, Ao figures out that Hyrie must have done something to Shiroha. Hyrie quickly tries to clarify that she shouldn't get the wrong idea and insists that he hadn't done anything inappropriate. He just happened to meet Shiroha on the road. Ao then mentions that she had invited Shiroha as well, but she refused to come. The next day, Ui is leaving the house very early after preparing food for Hyrie. Hyrie skips eating properly, takes his car, and heads out for a drive. Along the way, he comes across an ice cream shop and steps inside to buy something sweet. A kind grandmother prepares a tasty treat for him, something like a shaved ice, and he sits outside to enjoy it. Shortly after, the granny comes outside and advises him to eat it indoors since the weather is too hot. He listens and enters the house to eat more comfortably. However, as he opens the door, he accidentally walks in on Ao, who is in the middle of changing clothes. The moment turns extremely awkward. Both of them are caught off guard and visibly embarrassed. Hyrie gets so flustered that he ends up throwing his ice cream at Ao in sheer panic. Ao begins yelling at him, completely shocked, prompting Hyrie to apologize profusely. Ao angrily tells him that not only did he barge into the house without permission, but he also saw her changing and now he expects forgiveness. Hyrie tries to explain that he had studied at an all-boys school and had no experience in situations like this. He says that in the heat of the moment, the only thing he could think of was to cover her somehow, and so he instinctively threw the ice cream. It was a ridiculous move. He could have simply stepped back out, but instead he made things worse. Despite his continuous apologies, Ao remains furious. He then asks her what she was doing inside the shop, and she replies that she works there. Despite her explanation, he still feels extremely awkward because his own underwear had become soaked with melted ice cream. Hyrie again begs for forgiveness and even suggests that she throw ice cream on him as revenge. Ao accepts the offer and brings out a large amount of ice cream, ready to hurl it at him. She does exactly that, and after doing so, bursts into laughter, breaking the tension with a lighthearted moment between them. But then Hyrie throws ice on Ao's face as well, and Ao, now furious again, retaliates by throwing 2 bowls of ice directly at Hyrie's face, hitting him in the eyes. After that, Hyrie gets irritated and throws some ice back, but accidentally hits the wrong spot, which causes his clothes to get completely soaked. Since he's all wet, he decides to take off his shirt and dry it. Just then, Mickey suddenly shows up and sprays him with her water gun, catching him totally by surprise. Hyrie doesn't even see it coming. She tells him that she didn't mean to attack him this time, but warns him not to walk around shirtless again, or she won't hold back next time. She quickly tells him to put his shirt back on. Hairi then heads home and tries to dry his shirt. When Umi sees him without his shirt, she becomes really shy and turns away quickly, blushing. Hairi hurries to explain what happened so she doesn't get the wrong idea. Later, he's shown relaxing in the bath, thinking about everything that has happened since he arrived. He realizes it's already been 3 days and he still doesn't fully understand why he came to the island in the first place. He thought it would be a break, but he's not sure what he's looking for. After getting out of the bath and changing, he goes to see Kyoko and politely asks if it's okay for him to go out again for a while longer. Kyoko responds by mentioning that she has heard he's been making friends with the youth group members on the island, and she expresses her happiness that he's able to connect with the locals. Hairi then apologizes, saying he feels bad that he hasn't been able to help her in any way, but Kyoko reassures him that it's no problem and she will surely ask for his help when needed. Hairi, in his thoughts, admits to himself that coming here to help Kyoko was really just an excuse. What he truly wanted was to distance himself from others and escape from his busy life for a while. He later heads to the seashore, and once again, he finds Shiroha there. Shiroha sees him and curiously asks what he's doing there. Hairi replies that he's just wandering around. As they speak, he refers to her by name, which surprises Shiroha. She asks how he knows her name, and Hairi reminds her that she was the one who told him when they first met. Then, as usual, Shiroha mispronounces his name again, and Hairi once more corrects her and wonders why she keeps getting it wrong. He then brings up a moment from the past, telling her that when he was arriving on the boat near the island, he saw her staring intently at something. He asks what she was looking at, and Shiroha explains that she was watching birds flying in the sky. She then turns the question on him and asks why he came to the island. Hairi responds honestly, saying he doesn't really know. He then starts thinking about his past life, how hectic and packed it used to be, and how he barely realized how quickly time had passed. He says he just wanted to step away from that busy routine and take a break, and that's why he came here. Wanting to keep the conversation going, he asks Shiroha what her favorite summer break memory is. She tells him about her childhood summer, and Hairi agrees, saying that childhood summers spent with family and friends were the best. He reflects that during that time, they not only made memories, but also got chances to do various enjoyable activities. He shares how, since arriving on the island, he's been flooded with memories from his own childhood, though he doesn't quite understand why it's happening. Still, he admits that he enjoys the feeling. Shiroha offers a thought of her own, suggesting that maybe he has become so fond of the island that it is bringing these memories back. She then asks what he meant earlier when he talked about his wing breaking, saying that her grandmother had mentioned something about it. Hairi realizes that he had not shared that with any grandmother on the boat, and he quickly explains that it's just a phrase people use and not to read too much into it. The girl is walking along a path carrying a bag with her. Meanwhile, Hairi is happily eating a plate of fried rice made by Umi. He thinks the food tastes really good that day, and Umi feels happy when he compliments her cooking. Later, Hairi is sleeping peacefully until Umi enters his room and teases him for being lazy. He slowly gets up and asks if she's heading out again. Umi tells him that the weather is really nice today, so she's planning to go bug hunting with her friends. She reminds him that it's still summer break and suggests he go out and have an adventure instead of staying indoors all day. When she says the word adventure, Hairi blushes slightly, clearly daydreaming about something, probably girls. Umi notices and playfully accuses him of thinking something inappropriate, but Hairi quickly denies it, saying that's not true at all. Umi laughs, says goodbye, and leaves for her outing. Now alone, Hairi decides to head out too and walks toward a nearby lake. When he gets there, he sees Shiroha standing quietly by the water, looking serious and thoughtful. Then, out of nowhere, Shiroha raises her hand, makes a pretend gun with her fingers, and starts pretending to shoot like she's playing a make-believe game. When she notices Hairi watching her, he immediately plays along and acts like he's been shot. This makes Shiroha blush deeply, turning red with embarrassment. Feeling shy, she watches as Hairi walks up to her and apologizes for surprising her. Trying to explain herself, Shiroha nervously points at him and says her family has a special tradition involving the river, though it's not something they explain normally. She's too shy to say much more, but insists it's totally normal for her family. Then she points toward the river again and says they are standing behind it, repeating it like it's something meaningful. Hairi repeats the same words, and for a little while, they both keep saying it together, caught in the strange but sweet moment until they both get tired. Suddenly, Hairi asks if she likes reading manga. Shiroha says she enjoys it when someone gives it to her, but then blushing again, she quickly adds that she doesn't like Hairi very much and runs off before he can respond. A bit later, Hairi sees a girl with black hair having trouble with her bag. He asks if she needs help, and she says it's stuck on an iron rod. After he helps her, she jokingly calls him Hairi. Confused, asks if she knows him. She says no, but jokes that he's probably more popular than he thinks. She then introduces herself as Kamome. Hairi finds it difficult to pronounce her name, but she tells him it's okay, and that just calling her normally is fine with her. Out of nowhere, she starts pretending to be a sea eagle. Hyrie is clearly puzzled by her behavior and wonders to himself what she's even doing. Noticing his confused expression, Kamome tells him not to stare at her like she's being strange, and Hyrie quickly apologizes. She smiles and tells him again that he doesn't need to be sorry because he helped her. Hyrie is dragging her bag while she sits comfortably on top of it, refusing to walk. He tells her that she should really get down and walk on her own. She insists on riding the bag. Curious about where they're going, Hyrie asks her about their destination, but she only laughs and says she can't say yet. It's a big secret. This answer leaves Hyrie even more confused, and it clearly shows on his face. As they continue walking together, Kamome begins humming a tune to herself, and Hyrie, still wondering what's going on, asks her what song she's humming. After talking briefly about the song, they continue walking until they run into Umi along the way. She notices them and asks where Hyrie is going, but he stays quiet. Kamome, with a mischievous smile, answers on his behalf, saying that she is punishing him by making him drag her bag. She then turns the attention toward Umi and teasingly calls her a little girl, asking where she herself is heading. Umi immediately reacts and tells Kamome not to refer to her that way. Before the conversation can continue, Umi's friends call out, reminding her that they need to hurry as they are already running late. Umi warns them to be careful, mentioning that there's a steep, slide-like path ahead, and then heads off with her group. Not long after, the sloped road comes into view, and Hyrie cautiously says that the path seems dangerous and that they should move slowly. But Kamome, being a thrill-seeker, has other ideas. Without hesitation, she pushes the bag ahead, hops on top of it, and starts sliding downhill at full speed. She seems to be enjoying every second of it, laughing and feeling the rush, while Hyrie chases after her in panic, unsure how to stop her or protect her. The excitement takes a turn when a river appears at the bottom of the slope. Kamome tries desperately to stop herself, but fails and ends up falling straight into the water. She begins to drown, struggling beneath the surface. Hyrie, watching helplessly for a moment, closes his eyes and is suddenly thrown back into a memory of his past, a swimming competition he once takes part in. He remembers the intense pressure, the moment he loses control in the water, and how that failure has haunted him since. But this time, he knows he has to act. He takes a deep breath, assumes his swimming position, and jumps into the river to save her. However, as soon as he enters the water, panic grips him and he starts to struggle, telling himself that he can't do it. Just then, Kamome manages to reach out and pull him upward, rescuing him instead. She thanks him afterward, acknowledging that she has assumed he doesn't know how to swim, and he still jumps in to save her, which means a lot to her. As they recover from the incident, Hyrie notices a cat symbol on Kamome's bag. She explains that it's the emblem of Hijinikos, and Hyrie thinks it sounds pretty cool. They begin to joke around, and Kamome starts splashing water on his face playfully. The two of them are back on the shore, wringing the water out of their clothes. At one point, when Hyrie glances toward Kamome, his gaze accidentally lands on an awkward spot. Embarrassed, he quickly turns his head away. Looking up at the sky to distract himself, he thinks to himself that the sky above looks just like heaven. The conversation then shifts to the beauty of the blue sky, and both of them talk about how lovely it truly is. Kamome starts reminiscing, saying that she has lived on the island for a long time and that the suitcase she always carries has been with her since it is very small. She recalls a time when a summer camp is organized there, attended by many students, and that she also participates in it. Curious, she asks Hyrie why he comes to the island. Hyrie doesn't immediately respond, but she guesses aloud that he must have come seeking adventure. This triggers a memory for Hyrie as he remembers Umi previously telling him the same thing, that now that he's here, he should embrace the experience. He begins to think that maybe she is right and that he truly is enjoying the adventure after all. Kamome then tells him that he should come with her to a certain place. Hyrie, puzzled, asks where they are going, but Kamome simply says they're going on an adventure. She grabs his hand and begins to lead the way. Hyrie asks repeatedly where they are headed, but she refuses to tell him. Along the path, Hyrie suddenly spots Shiroha in the distance. Without hesitation, he runs toward her and calls out her name. Shiroha, startled by his sudden appearance, turns around with a frightened expression. After that, Hyrie begins apologizing to Shiroha one last time, trying to make amends for everything that happens between them. He asks what she is doing there and whether she needs help with something. Offering his support, he says that if there's something she wants, he'll help her with it. Shiroha, still quiet and a little unsure, asks if he really means it and hands him some money, requesting a watermelon-flavored ice cream. Hyrie accepts and leaves to get it for her. But when he returns, he has lemon-flavored ice cream in his hands instead. He explains to her that the watermelon one is already sold out. Hearing this, Shiroha's face falls with disappointment. She doesn't take the ice cream and quietly walks away without saying anything. Watching her leave like that, Kamome, who has been observing, remarks that Shiroha looks really cute in that moment. Hyrie ends up giving the ice cream to Kamome, who gratefully accepts it and thanks him. Eventually, the two of them reach their destination, an old elementary school. There's a barrier wall in front of the building, and Kamome begins climbing it without hesitation. Hyrie, embarrassed, turns his face away to avoid accidentally seeing anything inappropriate while she climbs. Once she's up, Kamome calls out to Hyrie and encourages him to climb too. With a bit of struggle, Hyrie manages to make it to the top. Looking around nervously, he suggests that they shouldn't go any further, but Kamame insists that they have to keep going just a little more. She points out the direction they need to reach, and without waiting much longer, she climbs down toward a window and opens it. Hairi watches this nervously and asks if this isn't too risky, wondering whether this could get them into trouble. Kamame calmly assures him that there's nothing to worry about. The two of them enter what looks like an old classroom. Inside the room, Kamame starts rummaging through some items, pulling out objects from their childhood. She tells Hairi that back when she and her friends are younger, they used to come here to play and go on adventures. Among the items, she shows him a poster featuring a cat, the same symbol that's on her bag. She explains that it used to be their group's flag or emblem when they attend summer camp, a time filled with fun and exploration. As they continue looking through old memories, Kamame hands him a notebook in which she writes down many things during her childhood. Hairi flips through its pages and finds an entry about a particular box sitting right in front of them. He becomes curious and asks what's inside the box, but Kamame doesn't let him open it. There's a chain wrapped around it, keeping it closed. Hairi, still curious, teases her by asking if it contains her childhood secrets, but she remains silent and doesn't respond. A moment later, Kamame climbs out through the window and calls Hairi to come and look at the view. When he looks outside, he's struck by how beautiful the scenery is. He then looks over at Kamame and finds himself smiling as he watches her. The sun has begun to set, and the sky is painted in warm colors. As the day draws to an end, Kamame tells Hairi that she has a really good time spending the day with him, and she hopes that their next adventure will be even bigger. With that, she waves goodbye and begins walking away. Hairi stands still for a moment, thinking deeply about everything they experienced that day. He realizes how much fun he has with her and reflects that this adventure feels truly unique. He remembers all the little moments they share and thinks to himself that it is a day he won't forget. Just as he is lost in these thoughts, he notices that Kamame hasn't gone far. She's still standing nearby. He walks over and asks if something is wrong. She tells him that her legs are hurting and she might not be able to walk home. Without hesitation, she sits down once again on her suitcase, clearly expecting Hairi to do what he does before. She looks at him and tells him to get moving. Hairi begins pushing her suitcase once more. As they walk along, they talk casually, and at one point, Kamame tells him honestly that he's a really nice person. Curious, Hairi asks her what she means by that. She replies that he can take it however he wants. Hearing this, Hairi simply smiles and thanks her. In the past, Kamame is speaking to one of her friends named Takata about a hidden treasure. She seems excited about the prospect, but Taka, with hesitation, tells her that he doesn't think he can help her. He assures her that she'll eventually find someone better suited to assist her in the search. Just then, a girl named Tsubame appears, enthusiastically pretending to be a ninja. She's quickly followed by Hayato, who acts like a scientist, bringing a different kind of energy to the group. Another girl, Suzume, is introduced briefly, though not much is said about her. Still, it's clear she shares the same interest in finding the treasure and wants to be part of their team. All of this takes place in a flashback, setting the foundation of the story with childhood curiosity and ambition. Back to the present, Kamame and Hairi are together. Kamame, now grown up but still driven by that same childhood dream, is trying to locate a key that unlocks a treasure box believed to contain a secret about the island. She tells Hairi that the mystery hidden inside is significant, but insists on keeping the details to herself until the key is found. The treasure box has 4 knockers on it, each representing one of the 4 friends seen in the earlier memory, and Kamame is the group's leader. Because of this, she still holds the book that contains clues about where the keys are hidden. Hairi expresses doubt, wondering if the keys could still be there after all these years. It has been 10 years after all. Kamame opens the book and shows him the notes, where the locations of the keys are written in the form of cryptic puzzles. One of the clues states that the key lies hidden in the depths of the ocean, making the search even more complicated. They head over to the swimming pool, not the sea as one might expect, but once there, they both doubt the key could possibly be hidden in such a place. The note also contains a reference to Cajuns, a term meant to signify the god of the sea, but then offers his own interpretation. Perhaps the clue refers to a lighthouse, since it too serves to protect those at sea. Acting on this hunch, they head to the lighthouse, where they find a familiar face, Tsumugi, a yellow-haired girl who has appeared before. It turns out that Hairi already knows her, a fact that surprises Kamame. Together with Tsumugi, they begin picking up garbage scattered along the shoreline, cleaning the area as they talk. Kamame tells Tsumugi about the treasure box and the possibility of finding a key that could unlock it, though Tsumugi herself knows nothing about it. Meanwhile, Hairi keeps thinking about the clue and becomes increasingly certain that the key cannot be in the ocean itself. Later, the group sits down at a restaurant and continues brainstorming about where the key could be. The topic of a kaiju comes up, something that prompts Kamame to start acting out a playful impersonation of one. Hairi watches her and feels something odd about the entire discussion, sensing that they might be getting off track. They decide to visit a shrine, hoping they might find a useful lead. After a brief search, where, to their surprise, they actually manage to find one of the keys. Kamame, overjoyed by their success, asks Hairi how he figures it out. Hairi begins explaining that perhaps the clue about the god of the sea is actually referring to a shrine who protects the sea, leading him to believe that the key might be hidden under the stairs, and he is right. Finding the key, there brings a big smile to Kamame's face as she's thrilled to have located one of the 4 keys first. As the evening falls, she walks away feeling content, and Hairi also heads off toward his destination. Before parting ways, they promise to meet again the next day. They are both seen frantically running away from a dog. It turns out that the next clue in the puzzle directs them to a doghouse, suggesting that one of the keys might be hidden there. The puzzle also hints that the dog in question could be over 10 years old, adding yet another quirky layer to their adventurous quest. After that, both of them head toward a house that looks like it might be worth checking, and Hairi suggests they take a closer look. As they approach the doghouse outside the property, he puts his hand inside cautiously, and to their surprise, she pulls out one of the missing keys. With one more piece of the puzzle in their hands, they begin planning to search next in a desert-like area mentioned in the clues. This desert is rumored to house a creature named Basilisks, described as some kind of monster, though Hairi half jokes that it might just be a bunch of chickens instead. To follow his hunch, Hairi pays a visit to Kyoko and asks if anyone on the island keeps a large number of chickens. Kyoko answers that Shiro's parents in fact raise many chickens, which immediately catches Hairi's attention. He shares this information with Kamome, explaining that Shiroha is the same girl they have met at the ice cream shop, and that she is actually the first person he speaks when he arrives on the island. He admits he's known her since then. They head to Shirova's house, but before they can get too far, a tall and intimidating man emerges from the home. His sudden appearance startles Hairi, who clearly isn't expecting anyone like that. The man, suspicious of the unfamiliar faces, demands to know how they know Shirova's first name. Hairi hesitates, but Kamome quickly responds that they are friends of Shirova. Despite the explanation, the man doesn't seem convinced. Realizing that something is off, he closes the door on them without another word. Just then, a schoolgirl passes by dressed in her uniform, and Kamome gets an idea. She comments that if she goes there dressed in a school uniform, maybe they would trust her a bit more. She turns to Hairi and asks if there's any way they can get one. Hairi, unsure but willing to try, decides to approach Ao for help. He asks her directly if she can lend her school uniform, a request that immediately surprises her. Ao refuses at first, but Hairi pleads and insists that it's not for him, it's for a friend. Moved by his persistence, Ao finally agrees. Meanwhile, Kamome arrives at Shirova's house, now wearing the uniform. It's clear that Ao eventually agrees to lend it. Hairi, seeing her, jokingly comments that the uniform looks a bit tight on her. They approach the house again and start calling out. This time, Shiroha's grandfather answers the door. Instead of turning them away, he calls Shiroha to come out and meet them. When she arrives, she looks confused and asks who they are. Kamome introduces herself and explains their purpose. Eventually, Shiroha agrees to bring them to the chicken coop, which is located just behind the house. Once there, the group starts searching around, trying to follow the next clue. In the middle of the search, Hairi stumbles upon a strange book. He opens it for a moment, but quickly blushes and sets it down, clearly embarrassed by whatever he sees inside. Shirova notices and makes a face, wondering if that's what they come there to find. Hairi, now red in the face, denies it and resumes his search. After looking through the area more carefully, Hairi finally finds another key. Curious, Shiroha asks what it is, and Kamome explains that it's one of the keys to the treasure they've been searching for. Shiroha lights up with excitement, clearly drawn to the mystery, and Kamome asks if she'd like to join them on their quest. But Shiroha declines, unable to commit to the journey. Hairi gently explains to Kamome that Shiroha is a shy person and prefers to stay within her comfort zone. Still, the energy is cheerful. Hairi compliments Kamome, saying he now understands why she's the leader of the group. She always sees things through, no matter how difficult they seem. The compliment makes Kamome visibly happy. She begins to open up a bit more about herself, sharing that she used to be shy too, especially during the time she spends alone at the summer camp. It isn't until she stumbles upon her father's old map, which is filled with notes about exploring the island, that her desire to uncover the island's secrets truly begins. Finding that map is the first step toward this entire adventure. On the map, Kamome discovers as a child, there is a cross marked at one particular spot with the word treasure written beside it, but the path leading to that location is extremely dangerous. She knows her parents would never allow her to go alone, so she decides that she needs a boy to accompany her. Eventually, more people join her group, and as she lists all their names, Hairi finds himself surprised because their names sound familiar to him. After their ongoing search, Hairi finally manages to find the fourth and final key. Just as he does, a bird begins to bother him, causing him to fall from a tree. When he opens his eyes, he finds himself inside a house, and to his surprise, Kamome is wearing a maid outfit. She explains that he gets hurt because of her, so she decided to take care of him while he recovers. Hairi, still groggy and confused, asks why she's dressed like that, and Kamome tells him that she offers to help Kyoko around the house, and this is the outfit she is given. Just then, Kyoko enters and comments on how cute Kamome looks in the uniform. Hairi, slightly flustered, agrees with a faint yes, which makes Kyoko happy. With all the chores now being handled by Kamome, including the shopping, Hairi is left to rest. While he's taking a bath, Kamome unexpectedly comes in to clean out his back. Hairi, panicking, blurts out that he's not wearing a towel, which causes Kamome to become just as embarrassed. quickly feels too awkward and apologetically leaves the room. Later, with all 4 keys in their possession, Kamome finally opens the long-awaited treasure box. Inside, they find a piece of paper and Hairi asks if this is really all there is. Kamome, overwhelmed with emotion, thanks him, saying that without his help, she never would be able to open it. Hairi, curious, asks what the paper says, and Kamome reveals it contains the location of a ship. Hairi, unimpressed, wonders what's so important about that, but Kamome insists it matters. She begins to tell him about her past, about how she and the others travel great distances and face many obstacles to get to that ship. When they finally reach it, they find a pirate ship with a logo that matches the one she still wears in her hair today. Though Hairi seems skeptical, Kamome assures him she's telling the truth. What reason would she have to lie? She explains that they find the ship just as their summer camp ends, and they all have to return to their homes on the same day. Hairi suggests that if it really exists, the ship should still be there, and they should go check. Kamome lights up the idea, reminding him that all of them once promised to come back together after 10 years to rediscover the ship. With the map and the key in hand, she says with excitement that maybe, just maybe, the ship is still waiting for them. The duo is heading out again to search for the hidden treasure, and Kamome is happily singing a song even though she doesn't really understand its meaning. Still, she keeps humming it with excitement. While they are walking, Kamome comes up with a team name, Higineko Kamome. However, some of the other group members comment that the name Kamome doesn't sound quite right. Even so, Higineko is the one who makes the final decision and the name sticks. Suddenly, Kamome slips while walking and Hairi quickly tries to catch her. But just then, Hairi wakes up from his sleep. It has all been a dream. When he looks up, he sees Kamome standing in front of him and he becomes very flustered and embarrassed. She takes a step back and tells him not to stare at her like that, as it might give people the wrong idea. After that, they get ready for their next camping trip to continue the search for the pirate ship. Kamome asks if his hand is feeling better, and Hairi tells her it is. They begin walking together and cover a lot of ground. During the journey, Kamome starts singing the same old song again, and Hairi mentions that it sounds familiar, like something he has heard a long time ago. As they walk, Hairi notices that Kamome is falling behind. He kindly offers to carry her suitcase to help her move more easily, but she refuses. She explains that she has never let anyone carry it before and doesn't want to now. She says that the reason she always walks slowly is because of the suitcase, but she still prefers to carry it herself. Hairi tells her not to worry, saying they can just take their time and enjoy thinking about old memories. This makes Kamome smile, and she tells him he is really kind. Later, they reach a point where the road splits in two. Using a compass and a map, they pick one path and continue. The sun is getting hotter, and the walk becomes more tiring. Hairi suggests taking a break, but when he turns around, he sees that Kamome isn't behind him anymore. He starts remembering their past, when they walked the same path as kids. It is just as hot then, and everyone finds it tough. Even back then, Kamome walks slowly because of her suitcase, and Hairi offers to help, but she doesn't let him and tells the others to keep going while she comes later. Snapping back to the present, Hairi is still thinking about those memories when Kamome catches up. She asks what he is thinking about, and he asks where she has gone. She says she is just walking slowly because of the heat. Then they keep walking and finally reach the cave they are searching for. Then a memory resurfaces, showing a night from the past when they camped there, and Hairi has trouble sleeping, so he steps outside for some air. While outside, he notices Kamome is also awake. She walks a great deal that day and is now in pain because of it. Hairi approaches her gently and asks if her legs are all right. It is at that moment he learns that she has trouble walking and uses her suitcase for support. The realization stays with him, and now as he dreams about it again, those moments from the past help him understand Kamome even more deeply. Just then, Kamome walks up very close to Hairi and greets him with a cheerful good morning. Hairi is immediately startled by her sudden closeness and instinctively backs away in embarrassment, telling her that she shouldn't come so close to him and making an awkward remark that she shouldn't do anything strange. Kamome, rolling her eyes at his reaction, firmly tells him that he doesn't need to speak nonsense. She then shifts the conversation and tells him that there is a very good place nearby to take a bath, so she is heading there and asks him to stay put by the fire. Hairi remains seated by the fire, letting the warmth settle him, when suddenly he hears Kamome scream from the distance. Alarmed, he runs quickly in the direction of her voice and finds her not fully dressed, clearly caught off guard. Despite her state, Kamome points ahead and nervously indicates that there is something over there. Hairi, though trying to stay focused, finds his eyes accidentally fixed on her before realizing that the source of the scare is actually a wild pig nearby. Trying to lighten the tension, he blurts out that he is feeling unusually excited, and Kamome, catching the meaning, asks in a flustered tone whether he is excited from seeing her. Hairi panics and denies it frantically, telling her that whatever she is thinking isn't true. Embarrassed herself, Kamome blushes and looks away, and Hairi quickly apologizes, saying that he honestly hasn't seen anything inappropriate. She doesn't believe him and tells him firmly not to lie. Internally, however, Hairi admits to himself that he has seen something, but is trying hard not to think about it. He keeps his thoughts to himself, knowing it won't help to say anything out loud. Then, trying to change the topic again, he asks if going further into the cave wouldn't be dangerous, to which Kamome confidently replies that it wouldn't be too risky, and that since they have come all this way, they should see it through. Hyrie smiles, admitting that he already knows that is going to be her answer, and teases her by saying that she hasn't changed a bit. She asks him what he means by that, clearly confused, but he brushes it off and tells her not to worry about it. As they move deeper into the cave, Kamome explains that about 300 meters in, there's a narrow path they need to find, and true to her words, they do find it. Walking through the passage, Hyrie is suddenly flooded with memories from the past, remembering a time when Kamome guides their group through a similar cave in the same confident way. These thoughts fill him with both nostalgia and admiration. As they make their way further, Hyrie turns to Kamome and asks if her leg is doing okay. He reminds her that she has issues with her leg in the past, and that she often relies on her suitcase for support. Kamome is surprised by his words and pauses, wondering how he knows that. She replies by denying anything is wrong, reasoning that if she does have a leg problem, she wouldn't have come on such a journey in the first place. Hyrie counters her explanation by asking why she always carries her suitcase with her wherever she goes. After a moment's hesitation, Kamome says she can't explain everything and asks him to understand. But Hyrie pushes gently, saying that since they are on this adventure together, they should trust each other and share their truths. Finally, Kamome opens up and explains that her legs sometimes hurt, particularly during colder seasons or in the middle of the day, and she apologizes for not mentioning it earlier. Her honesty triggers more memories for Hyrie, and he recalls how, in the past, Kamome tells him about being hospitalized for her leg condition and how it interferes with her ability to walk normally. He remembers his emotional reaction back then, how he yells at her in frustration, asking why she doesn't tell him sooner. In that moment, she says that she is feeling better and holds on to hope that she might recover entirely. Now back in the present, Hyrie, feeling concerned, tells her they should turn around and return, but Kamome protests, making an emotional plea. She insists she doesn't want to go back, not now, when they have already come so far. With genuine conviction in her voice, she asks him again and again not to give up and not to think about heading home just yet. Hyrie responds with a calm certainty, saying that he knows she will say something like that, and since they have come this far, there is no point in turning back. Hearing this brings a bright smile to Kamome's face, and the two decide to take a short break. As they sit down to rest, Kamome curiously asks him again why he really comes to the island. Initially, Hyrie avoids answering, clearly hesitant and uncomfortable, but Kamome gently urges him to open up. Eventually, he begins to explain that he creates a problem back in his team, specifically his swimming team. He recalls that during an important swimming competition, he starts drowning midway through the event, and because of that incident, he is forced to quit. After listening carefully, Kamome reflects on what he shares and tells him that it is admirable how people trust him, and she finds it to be a genuinely good thing. She then shares that it is painful to feel disappointed because for her, the goal is to witness something as amazing as piracy. She adds that after working so hard to reach that point, if there turns out to be no pirate ship or adventure at the end of the journey, it will hurt her deeply. Kamome also reveals a more personal side, telling him that because of her illness, she hasn't spent much time outside the hospital, and as a result doesn't have many cherished memories of summer vacations like others might. That is why it is so important for her to find someone who can be her partner in this adventure. Someone who truly understands the value of the journey, not necessarily the treasure itself. She admits that perhaps the treasure isn't as important to her friends as it is to her. They join simply to support her. With a soft voice, she says they should now move forward again. As they continue walking, an unexpected mishap occurs when Kamome's flashlight gets damaged. She reaches for her spare battery, but in the process, she and her suitcase accidentally slip and fall into the water. Without a second thought, Hyrie leaps in after her. As the current carries them forward, they hold on to each other tightly, refusing to let go. Eventually, Kamome manages to get them both out of the water, but Hyrie is left in a weakened state, hardly responding. In a panic, Kamome tries to call out to him repeatedly. As she struggles to wake him, the story briefly shifts back to the past, where a younger Kamome excitedly tells her group that they are about to reach their destination. To lift everyone's spirits, she begins singing a song, and soon the others join her, filling the cave with cheerful voices. They eventually find a way out, and this memory fades into the present. Kamome, now giving CPR to Hyrie, watches anxiously until finally his eyes open. With a faint smile, he tells her she doesn't need to worry so much since he is a trained swimmer. She teases him, saying she already knows he is the swimmer who leaves his team and ends up here. Hyrie, feeling a little playful, says that for a moment he thinks someone tries to kiss him, which makes Kamome blush deeply. He then realizes what happens and asks if she is the one giving him CPR. She nods and he thanks her sincerely. After that, they discover the path that will lead them out of the cave. Despite her determination, Kamome is clearly in pain and struggling to walk due to her injured leg. Hyrie searches for the suitcase that she often uses for support, but it is nowhere to be found. Without hesitating, he reaches out and gently takes her hand, helping her walk as he reminds her that moments like these, finding a pirate ship during summer break with a close friend, are the kind of memories worth holding on to forever. Kamome looks at him and asks if he will always remember this adventure, to which Hyrie answers that he will never forget it. Finally, as they emerge from the cave into the sunlight, they are met with a breathtaking sight, the pirate ship still standing, still waiting, just as the map promises. Overwhelmed with joy and disbelief, Hairi and Kamome smile brightly, knowing they have completed a journey that neither of them will ever forget. Hairi and Kamome find a shipwreck along the shore. Hairi walks toward it, inspecting its condition. But when he turns to Kamome, he finds her in tears. In that moment, her memories come flooding back. She remembers her suitcase, the place where her true self is kept. Realizing this, she silently thanks Hairi for helping her dreams come true. A sudden gust of wind rushes past them, forcing Hairi to close his eyes. When he opens them again, the scene before him blurs, and the only thing he can make out is Kamome waving goodbye through the haze. As his vision clears, she's gone. In her place, a single butterfly flutters in the air before drifting away. In the cave, Hairi wears the night vision goggles Tsumuvi gave him, which prove incredibly useful in the dark. They are searching for the suitcase Kamome once mentioned, and as they reach the designated spot, Hairi quickly spots the suitcase resting not far from where they stand. While Hairi approaches the suitcase, his friends explore the surroundings, commenting on how impressive the cave is. They even suggest it could become a tourist attraction someday. Suddenly, they notice several switches installed along the cave walls. Curious, they remove their goggles and flip the nearest one. Lights flicker on, illuminating the cave. As they glance at the stream ahead, they recall Hairi's story of drowning there. But now, standing before it, the water appears far too shallow, nothing like the stream he remembered. Doubt begins to settle in his mind. Later, back at his place, Hairi opens the recovered suitcase. As he examines the contents, he pulls out a lacy piece of underwear. Just then, Wumi walks in and casually asks if he's holding a woman's undergarment. Startled, Hairi fumbles for a response and awkwardly denies knowing how it got there. Sensing his embarrassment, Wumi lets it slide. Hairi continues searching through the suitcase and discovers a worn-out book titled The Tales of Hijinikos. Curious, he flips through the pages, and as he reads, something about the story feels familiar. He begins to suspect he might have owned the copy once long ago. The story follows a young girl named Kamome who attends a summer camp but struggles to fit in with the other kids. One day, she sneaks into her father's office, who is an archaeologist, and discovers an old, mysterious map. Inspired, she gathers the other children and invites them on an adventure. Together, they form a group called the Hijinikos and set off on a thrilling pirate-like journey. In the book, Kamome lives in a rented house on a small island just a few meters from the main island. Driven by curiosity, Hairi makes a phone call to inquire about the island's location. The next morning, he sets off by boat, sailing toward the small island mentioned in the story and finds out it is privately owned. Upon his arrival, Hairi steps onto the shore and begins his search. He walks through dense greenery until finally a house appears before him, just like in the book. Outside the house, a woman sits on the porch reading a small book. Hairi approaches and greets her, though unsure of what to say at first. When she notices the suitcase he's carrying, she assumes he's there to deliver it. She says it belongs to her, which makes Hairi think she must be connected to Kamome. Upon hearing Kamome's name, the woman lights up and introduces herself as Sagi. Hairi introduces himself in return. Sagi then reveals that Kamome is her daughter. Now both seated, the two begin talking about Kamome. Hairi learns that she has been living in Finland for the past 2 years. Though Sagi is unsure of how he and Kamome are connected, the fact that he traveled all this way just to bring back the suitcase convinces her that he's someone important. Feeling reassured, she begins to share more about Kamome. 10 years ago, Kamome's father worked at a university, studying plants and animals. As part of his research for a company, the family moved to a small island. Kamome, however, had always been a sickly child and didn't have any friends her age. Because of this, reading became her constant companion. She dreamed of traveling and exploring distant places. Books became her escape, and she was rarely seen without one in hand. Often, she would sit atop her father's old suitcase, an item that had already seen much of the world. Knowing Kamome couldn't travel due to her illness, her mother, who is a writer, decided to create a world just for her. She wrote a novel with Kamome as the protagonist, and that became The Adventure of the Hijinikos. Kamome once talked excitedly about a pirate island filled with treasure. Though it was only a product of her childhood imagination, it inspired her mother to turn it into a story. To make the setting more realistic, she chose Torishirojima as the location. The summer after it was published, Kamome wished for a ship of her own. The ship Hairi later found, the Kamome, was that very ship, one her mother had specially requested to be brought in. It was built to resemble a pirate ship, just as Kamome had imagined. Kamome has plans that go beyond even her mother's imagination. She wants to bring the book to life with a real map and an actual pirate ship. Hairi is stunned, speechless. Seeing this, Sagi tells him to open the captain's cabin on the ship, where Kamome keeps her most treasured belongings. Hairi returns to the ship and unlocks the cabin with a key. He recalls Sagi's words that if Kamome is well enough this year, they will invite everyone aboard. Inside, letters and envelopes cover the tables. He carefully reads each one, and it is filled with reviews and feedback from readers praising the book. Then, as he picks up one particular letter, he is surprised to see his own name on it. He had sent letters to Kamome as well, expressing admiration for her bravery and courage. That night, Hairi makes a call to his parents. Wumi sees him on the phone and asks if he's going home, but he says no, he just needs them to send something over. When the package arrives, Hairi opens it and takes out the book, The Adventures of Hijinikos. Inside, a letter is tucked between the pages. It's a response from Kamome, thanking him for the letter he sent. She writes that his words gave her strength, and she promises to take him on a whole new adventure again, 10 years later. Reading the letter, Hairi realizes how big Kamome's plans truly were. But then he remembers what her mother told him. One day, Kamome just collapsed, and her father, who died young, suffered from the same illness she has. The suitcase had been found in the cave, yet her mother, Sagi, couldn't explain how it got there. Sagi brought the suitcase when she first moved to the island, but somehow it vanished after she landed on the shore. She remembers it clearly, how the suitcase was there one moment and gone the next. In its place were dozens of butterflies fluttering all around. She never understood what happened, but always felt it was connected to Kamome somehow. Hairi imagines what could have happened if Kamome's plan had worked. If only she had one more summer, her dreams might have come true. The next day, Hairi brings his friends to see the ship. It now looks more like a ghost ship, more than a pirate ship. Still, they see its potential, so they decide it will need restoring, starting with repainting it with fresh colors. That night, Hairi sleeps soundly beneath the veil of darkness when something stirs him awake. Blinking into the shadows, he catches a glimpse of Kamome standing quietly in front of him. She greets him gently, and he asks where she's been. Smiling faintly, she says she's been watching from above the ship all this time. Hairi wonders if she's the one who prepared the entire ship, but Kamome admits she has no memories of it. She explains that most of her days were spent bedridden in the hospital, and the lines between dream and reality have long blurred. At some point, she can't even tell what's real anymore. It was also strange how they were once just characters in a book, and now they were living those adventures for real. Even while lying in her hospital bed, Kamome would often ask her mother about the Hygienekos. She wondered if they still remembered her and hoped they could continue their voyage aboard the pirate ship they found 10 years ago. That summer felt like magic. She remembered stepping onto the island with her suitcase, feeling like she had finally become part of the dream, becoming the Kamome from the book. Arriving at the island aboard the ship had always been Kamome's dream, and Hairi made it come true. That's why she came to see him one last time. She gently tells him that she's going somewhere far, so this is more likely her last farewell. Hairi doesn't understand. She's abroad now, what place could be farther than that? But Kamome looks up the stars and softly says it's somewhere beyond that. She leans in, touches his face, and thanks him again and again. Overwhelmed, Hairi's tears start falling as he presses a gentle kiss to her lips. Under the moonlight, they share a quiet, fleeting moment. Then Hairi jolts awake, screaming Kamome's name. It was all a dream. Gasping for breath, he rises from the couch and climbs to the upper deck of the ship, wondering if everything that happened on this island was just a dream or hallucination. But even if it was, Hairi decides in that moment to live with it. He chooses to chase what he believes in, wherever it may lead. The next morning, Hairi is invited to lunch by Umi, but he seems preoccupied, focused on writing something on his desk. A neat stack of envelopes rests beside him. Letters addressed to the Hygienekos, the friends Kamome once dreamed of reuniting on the pirate ship. It's his way of keeping her dream alive. Umi watches him silently with concern in her eyes. Later, while speaking with Sagi, Hairi asks why Kamome waited 10 years before trying to reenact the story. Sagi explains that Kamome wanted to be a role model, like the brave girl in her book. She was afraid that if the children saw her so sick and fragile, they might be disappointed. She hoped to be stronger first to live up to the image they admired. Back then, Kamome promised to see them again once she had gotten better. And true enough, though her recovery was slow, she eventually began to move around like a normal little girl. Sagi shares this with tears welling in her eyes. She breaks down, crying uncontrollably. Then, she reveals something she hadn't told Hairi until now. This summer, Kamome quietly fell into an eternal sleep. Even so, she's thankful to Hairi for giving her no reason to regret her return to the island. Hairi, in turn, shares something he never mentioned before. He tells Sagi about the adventure he experienced. Sagi smiles through her tears. Hairi adds that he still wants to continue the ship's journey to let Kamome see it, because he's certain he truly loved her. The next morning, Hairi visits Kyoko to ask for a large cloth. But after rummaging through the shelves, they realize there isn't one available. He also notices Umi's absence, and Kyoko explains that she went home yesterday without saying anything to him. Kyoko adds with a hint of curiosity that Umi seemed rather interested in Hairi. Now focused on his plans, Hairi worries that no one might show up to see the pirate ship, but they have to. It's Kamome's dream after all. While walking around, he runs into Shiroha and asks if she knows where to find a big cloth, and if she can draw. Sure enough, a crowd gathers to see the pirate ship. Everyone had received the letters Hairi sent, but if anyone asked who invited them, Hairi would say it was Kamome. Just in time, Shiroha arrives with the cloth she drew too. Hairi unrolls it, and though Shiroha isn't confident in her work, he beams and praises it loudly, sincerely thanking her for her efforts. The drawing becomes the ship's flag, fluttering high above, capturing everyone's awe. Standing on the upper deck, Hairi observes the lively crowd surrounding the ship. Hairi knows this moment is Kamome's dream finally brought to life. At that moment, Kamome appears, sitting just above Hairi on the ship's highest beam, gazing out at the horizon. She has been there all along, quietly watching as the ship came to life. Tears well in her eyes as she clutches the dream that once seemed too far to reach. Hairi silently promises to make it real. They had agreed 10 years ago to meet again and set sail, and now that time has come. The wind lifts as Hairi looks up, waiting for direction. Kamome lifts her hand and points to the distant horizon. That becomes the start of a new adventure, just like the one from the pages of the book her mother once wrote. Umi dreams of her distant past, lying peacefully in a field of green with majestic butterflies fluttering above. She remembers a time when she was still a child, with nothing else to do but bask in the warmth of what felt like an endless summer. The sky was always clear, the breeze gentle, and time seemed to slow down. For a moment, she wishes she could return to those days. In the present, Umi arrives on Torishirojima Island with a suitcase in hand. Opening the door, Kyoko greets her and welcomes her warmly into her home. At the same time, another boat glides toward the island carrying Hairi. He stands silently, gazing at the vast ocean stretching before him, lost in thought. Then suddenly, the voice of an old woman calling out snaps him back to reality. The island is a tranquil place embraced by blue waters and lush green trees. Along its shore stands a lighthouse, and in its gallery sits a blonde girl named Sumogi, gently humming a song as she gazes out at the sea. That night, Hairi drifts through a dream where he struggles underwater, drowning in the deep ocean, desperate for air. Amid the silence, a loud voice pierces through, pulling him back. He jolts awake to find Umi standing over him, the source of the voice he's been hearing. It's already 8 in the morning and Hairi has overslept. Without further delay, the two head to the kitchen and sit down to eat breakfast. At the table, Hairi and Umi enjoy the breakfast she prepared. With just one bite of the fried rice, Hairi compliments the taste. That day, he tries to find something useful to do, but Kyoko keeps declining his offers to help. With nothing else on hand, he decides to explore the island on a motorcycle. It's already been a few days since Hairi arrived on the island. Though his main purpose is to help sort through his grandmother's belongings, he hasn't actually accomplished much. What he has managed, however, is to get to know the other people around his age living there. So far, they seem alright, though many are quite eccentric, none more so than Shiroha, who left a strong impression after giving him a rude remark. Sitting alone on a park bench, Hairi catches the attention of a few island kids who whisper among themselves, describing him as a Canarian rocker. The wind begins to blow harder, ruffling the trees. He decides to head toward the lighthouse, though the walk turns out to be much farther than he initially thought. As he finally approaches, a soft humming reaches his ears, an unfamiliar melody carried by the wind. Looking around for the source, Hairi is startled to find someone seated in the gallery of the lighthouse. It's Sumogi, confidently perched high above, humming her heart out. Intrigued, Hairi watches quietly at first, but concern quickly overrides his curiosity, and he shouts up at her, urging her to come down immediately. They speak by yelling across the distance. Sumogi tells him she's trying to find herself and her purpose, but Hairi protests, insisting her position is dangerous. She simply shrugs off his concern, claiming she's invincible and won't fall. Her calm boldness leaves Hairi speechless. All he can do is watch, secretly envious of her fearlessness and sense of freedom. Back at their home, Hairi is informed by Umi that the bath isn't working. The water suddenly stopped without warning. Peeking into the empty tub, Hairi casually suggests skipping the bath for one night, but Umi quickly shuts that down, insisting it's unthinkable in the summer heat. With no other option, Hairi ends up bathing at the local bathhouse, sharing the space with a group of elderly men who bathe completely naked. Though clearly uncomfortable, he endures it and finishes quickly. Afterward, he waits outside the women's bath for Umi. When the door creaks open, he perks up and prepares to speak, only to freeze mid-sentence when he sees it's not Umi who steps out, but instead Shiroha. Embarrassed, he quickly looks away awkwardly. When Umi finally comes out of the bathhouse, she finds Hairi standing near Shiroha and shoots him a suspicious look, so Shiroha proceeds to leave quickly. The two of them also hop on the motorcycle and head back home. On the way, Umi talks about her plan to get a license once she turns 16 so she can drive too. But Hairi's eyes are drawn to the unlit lighthouse in the distance. He points it out, and Umi explains it's been out of service for years. No one maintains it anymore. The next morning, Hairi returns to the lighthouse, hoping to catch a glimpse of Sumogi again. As he approaches, a loud clatter interrupts his thoughts. A kettle falls to the ground near him. Looking up, he spots a young woman struggling to carry several items, so he quickly rushes over and picks up the kettle for her, though he finds himself awkwardly distracted by her. The woman smiles and casually asks if he's also searching for something, leaving Hairi completely frozen in confusion and embarrassment. Before he can respond, she cheerfully introduces herself as Shizuku, but insists on being called something else instead. Hairi, flustered and uncomfortable, immediately declines the nickname, thinking it's completely inappropriate. Suddenly, a voice calls out from behind. It's Sumogi, also struggling to carry a pile of items in her arms. She accidentally bumps into Hairi and immediately recognizes him from their encounter at the lighthouse the day before. Seeing the two girls overwhelmed, Hairi steps in to help gather everything they're carrying. He's surprised and a little impressed by just how much they've collected between the two of them. As it turns out, all of it is ocean trash. Sumogi had the idea of cleaning up the shore for fun, and Shizuku decided to help her out. However, the task turned out to be far more difficult than they expected, almost making them regret the decision. Still, with Hairi's help, they managed to haul everything together. The three of them then begin sorting the garbage, separating items they can recycle. Eventually, the day ends on a good note for the three of them. As a token of gratitude for Hairi's help, Tsumugi and Shizuku volunteer to give him a tour around the island, showing him some of its most famous attractions. Their first stop is the oddly named Boulders, which turn out to be three large round boulders with weird shape. Next, they visit an old ancestral house perched on a cliff. It's rumored that someone powerful once lived there, but now the structure stands in ruins and has been abandoned for years. The next day, Shizuku shows up in her two-piece bikini and eagerly asks Hairi what he thinks. Caught off guard, he struggles to give a straight answer. Tsumugi, however, jumps in with a cheerful compliment to Shizuku, prompting Shizuku to pull her into a big hug. Hairi had only come by thinking there was something that needed to be done. He didn't expect it to be a swimming trip. Tsumugi didn't bring a swimsuit as well, so she ends up swimming in her casual clothes. Meanwhile, Hairi doesn't join them in the water, admitting he isn't too fond of swimming. Despite his hesitation, Tsumugi insists that swimming together will strengthen their friendship. She says they can do many things together, which will surely be fun. With that, Tsumugi grabs Hairi's foot and tries to pull him into the water, but Hairi resists. Because of the constant force, Tsumugi loses her balance and falls into the water, splashing herself and getting soaked. Both Shizuku and Hairi rush her aside, checking if she's okay. Though embarrassed, Tsumugi notices that because of Hairi's concern, he's finally stepped into the water. Hairi also notices this and decides to give in. Later, they all seek shade under a tree where they share their stories. Each seems to be searching for something this summer, though none know exactly what. Still, they hope to find it together in each other's company. With that, Shizuku suggests they try anything that even slightly interests Tsumugi, eager to support their newfound friendship. Hearing this, Tsumugi smiles and quickly shares her idea. She wants to spend the entire summer with Hairi and Shizuku, doing simple things like eating together and stargazing at night. Shizuku suggests having a sleepover and Tsumugi eagerly agrees. Hairi, however, feels hesitant. He's unsure about how close they really are after such a short time. But Shizuku and Tsumugi don't seem to mind his doubts. To them, it's easy to like Hairi, and they're excited to deepen their friendship no matter how quickly it's growing. That night, Hairi arrives at the lighthouse for the sleepover and is immediately surprised to see Tsumugi dressed in a cat costume. Behind her stands Shizuku wearing a tight cow costume that emphasizes her curves. To his surprise, Hairi also discovers that Tsumugi actually lives inside the lighthouse. The space is small yet cozy, filled with cute decorations. As the evening progresses, the three of them decide it's time for dinner. However, Tsumugi sheepishly admits she forgot to cook for them, having grown so used to living alone that she only made a serving for one. Fortunately, Hairi had brought snacks, so the two girls try to eat, but their costumes make it difficult to handle the food properly. As a result, they ask Hairi to feed them. Laughing at the absurdity of the situation, he agrees. That night, the three of them step outside the lighthouse to enjoy the stars, sitting together on the gallery as they let their conversation flow from one topic to another. As time goes on, Tsumugi starts humming the same tune she's often been caught singing, which prompts Hairi to finally ask about it. With this, Tsumugi explains that she doesn't know the song's title or lyrics, she simply sings it whenever she's feeling happy or having fun. Although the details are vague, she recalls loving the melody since childhood, saying it gives her a sense of self and purpose. Hearing this, Shizuku suddenly comes up with an idea to search for the origin of the song by asking around the island. Hairi agrees, equally excited by the plan, and their shared enthusiasm lights up Tsumugi's face. She's so thrilled that she says she doesn't even want to sleep, wishing instead to keep doing things like this together. Furthermore, she suggests inviting someone else to their next sleepover, hoping to make it even more memorable. When Hairi asks who she has in mind, Tsumugi describes them as someone who doesn't have many friends but is incredibly kind. However, before she can finish explaining, her voice begins to soften and her words start to blur. Slowly, she leans over, unable to stay awake any longer, and gently falls asleep, just when she said she didn't want to. The next morning, Hairi prepares to leave the lighthouse after their sleepover, but Tsumugi tries to stop him, clearly not wanting the night to end. Despite her plea, Shizuku explains that he needs to go home before his family starts worrying. Sensing her disappointment, she gently comforts Tsumugi, suggesting she rest up for another day full of fun tomorrow. Later, lying in his bed, Hairi begins to wonder if he should really be spending his entire summer with Tsumugi and Shizuku. As the morning sunlight hits his face, Ui calls out, reminding him to bring out his laundry. Rummaging through his things, he realizes he's forgotten something at Tsumugi's place. Hairi returns to Tsumugi's place to retrieve the item he left behind, but as he arrives, he's distracted by the sound of soft sobs. The once warm and cheerful lighthouse now feels dim and quiet, and Tsumugi, trying to mask her sadness, invites Hairi for another sleepover. However, without Shizuku around, Hairi hesitates. He's unsure about staying over with just the two of them. Still, he reassures her that there's plenty of time left in the summer for more memories. But unlike Hairi, Tsumugi knows her time is running short. She reveals that she'll soon have to leave the island and return home. Hairi tries to stay hopeful, suggesting they write letters or keep in touch through phone calls. Yet Tsumugi quietly explains that her home is farther than he imagines, so far that once she leaves, they may never meet again. Knowing this, she wants to make the most of every remaining moment playing and spending time with Hairi and Shizuku. Though he can't stay now, Hairi promises that as long as summer lasts, he'll be by her side. This summer, he tells her, belongs to her. Shizuku finds out about Hairi's promise to give Tsumugi his summer, and although they initially think she might not like the idea, she surprises them by being overjoyed. Shizuku finds it a wonderful gesture, touching and sincere. From that moment on, the three of them make a promise. They will give Tsumugi the rest of their summer. With that vow, their summer break truly begins. That same day, Tsumugi shares her first summer plan. She wants to build a balcony on the lighthouse using tin cans collected from the shore's trash. Hairi and Shizuku hesitate, unsure if it's structurally possible or even feasible to gather that much material. The idea sounds absurd, but Tsumugi remains confident and excited. She believes in it wholeheartedly, so despite their doubts, Hairi and Shizuku start to believe they might actually pull it off together. Tsumugi wants to plan everything carefully, so she starts coming up with strategic ideas to make the balcony happen. While she's busy, Hairi and Shizuku are left alone. They talk about Tsumugi's wild plans. Still, Shizuku shifts the conversation to something more serious. She reflects on Hairi's decision to give his entire summer to Tsumugi, calling it a bold move that can only come from someone in love. Though a bit surprised, Hairi doesn't fully deny it. Even if he's uncertain about what he truly feels, Shizuku is convinced Hairi is in love with Tsumugi, and his silence seems to agree. Just as Hairi tries to process her words, a sudden clatter of cans interrupts them. He looks up to find Tsumugi standing there, frozen. She has overheard everything, every single word, especially the part where Hairi is said to be in love with her. Caught off guard, Tsumugi begins to panic. This is the first time anyone has confessed love to her, and she doesn't know how to react. Embarrassed, she covers her face with both hands, trying to hide how red she's turned. Then, without another word, she turns and runs into the lighthouse, leaving the other two stunned in silence. Behind the door, Tsumugi stands with her hands pressed to her chest, letting out a loud sigh. She feels overwhelmed by everything she's just heard. Her eyes wander around the room, uncertainty flickering in them. Still, after a few deep breaths, she quietly reassures herself that everything will be all right. The next morning, Hairi sits down for breakfast with Umi, who proudly serves her special fried rice with sea urchin. Despite the delicious meal, Hairi seems distant. He barely reacts, lost in thought. His mind lingers on the awkward moment with Tsumugi, worrying she might reject him after overhearing his feelings. Contrary to what Hairi expects, Tsumugi acts exactly the same, as if nothing has happened between them. Relieved and unsure, he decides to play along, matching her usual energy. To continue with their plan of building a balcony, the group visits a local store to collect cans they can repurpose for the project. While there, Hairi notices something unexpected. Shizuku is surprisingly popular among the customers. It's the first time he learns that she's actually the well-known student council president at their school. The people in the store treat her with warm respect and admiration. Though Shizuku brushes it off, claiming she's only popular because of her curvy figure, the others dismiss her modesty, refusing to believe such a simple explanation. The other guys in the store step in protectively when someone behaves disrespectfully towards Shizuku, splashing him with water guns to drive him off before he can act maliciously. Their loyalty to her is clear and strong. Meanwhile, Ao, the vendor running the store, watches the scene with mild curiosity. She's less concerned about the commotion and more intrigued by Hairi, noting that she's never seen Tsumugi and Shizuku with anyone else before. Tsumugi herself is a rare sight on the island, so seeing her with a friend is both surprising and refreshing. Before they forget their purpose, the group refocuses and gathers the cans they came for. The same guys from earlier also pitch in, helping them collect even more materials. As a sweet bonus, Tsumugi ends the trip with a big cotton candy in hand, smiling as they head home, arms full of cans for their summer balcony project. Walking back to the lighthouse with their cans, Hairi feels a quiet joy. This time, he's spending his days with Tsumugi, not just drifting through summer, but finally doing something that matters, with purpose. Throughout the summer, they stay preoccupied with their planned activities, building the balcony from collected cans and searching for Tsumugi's song by asking people around the island. But no matter how hard they tried, no one seems to recognize it. As time passes, the balcony slowly begins to take shape. With the unexpected help of the boys who admire Shizuku, their progress comes faster than expected. But the summer isn't only about work. They spend days trying out food, playing games, and laughing under the sun. That summer becomes truly theirs, slipping by like a dream. Among those they approach for help is someone Tsumugi fondly calls Watermelon Bar, a woman often seen fishing by the ocean. Tsumugi offers her a watermelon popsicle bar and the name sticks. The woman is Shiroha, an old friend of Tsumugi. As they talk, they recall the moment they met, Tsumugi asking about fishing, then casually offering a watermelon bar after hearing it's Shiroha's favorite. That simple gesture sparked their friendship. Since then, every time Tsumugi visits, she brings a watermelon bar with her. While the two laugh and chat as if no time has passed, Hairi and Shizuku watch from a distance, amazed they're actually talking like old friends. The real reason they visit Shiroha is to ask if she has noticed any cans along the shore that they could collect for the balcony. Unfortunately, she doesn't have any. While Shiroha is warm and kind to Tsumugi, she acts cold and distant toward Hairi, often brushing off his attempts to talk. The next day, even Ao's regular store is running low on cans, but they're not there to collect any this time. Sumovi just wants to enjoy a cotton candy. As she becomes distracted chatting with Ao and some of the friendly customers, Shizuku tells something to Hairi only the two of them should know about. Turns out, Shizuku has a great idea. She wants Hairi to get Sumogi a gift. At first, Hairi thinks it's absurd, especially since Sumogi can't even look him in the eye after what happened. But Shizuku gently reminds him that once summer ends, he might not get another chance to see Sumogi again. That's why giving her something meaningful now could be a way for her to remember him. As they speak in soft, hushed tones, the old woman vendor nearby still manages to overhear them. With a kind smile, she volunteers that they have plenty of items perfect for gifts. Encouraged by this, Hairi stops hesitating and starts browsing around the shop. Then his eyes catch a glimpse of a set of yellow ribbons displayed in one of the cabinets. Instantly, he knows this is the perfect gift for Tsumugi. When it's time to go home, Tsumugi becomes curious about why Hairi and Shizuku suddenly disappeared earlier. Although it seems a bit suspicious, Shizuku quickly shifts the topic to Tsumugi's next plans. Tsumugi then suggests they go hang out at Hairi's place. Hairi finds the idea a little random, but in truth, Ao had secretly advised Tsumugi to take a look inside Hairi's room to get to know him better. Despite Hairi warning them that Kyoko can be a little strict about guests, they are surprised to find both Kyoko and Umi welcoming and cheerful. Kyoko even asked about their sleepover the other day. Hairi casually mentions that he slept with both Shizuku and Tsumugi, not meaning anything inappropriate. But Kyoko instantly panics, misunderstanding the situation completely. Sure enough, the first place they check out is Hairi's room. Well, it's not really his. It's just where he's staying for the summer. As they look around, Shizuku stumbles upon a pervy magazine, which Hairi hurriedly denies is his. Embarrassed, he's asked to step outside for a bit. After some time, he opens the door, only to be greeted by a surprising sight. Tsumugi standing there with a noticeably bigger chest. She's clearly stuffed it with something, likely as a joke. Caught off guard, she loses her balance, but Hairi quickly rushes in to catch her. Unfortunately, his hand lands somewhere it shouldn't, making the moment far more awkward. As if things couldn't get worse, Shizuku gets to witness the scene, and moments later, Kyoko enters and catches them, both in the act. The room freezes in tension, with Hairi left fumbling to explain the entire situation. Later that day, Kyoko rummages through some old boxes and finds a dusty book of nursery rhymes, hoping it might contain the mysterious song Tsumugi keeps humming. Excited, they flip through the pages, but to their dismay, the entire book is written in German. None of them can understand it. Shizuku takes a closer look and hums one of the melodies written in the book, and to their surprise, it matches Tsumugi's song. At long last, they found it. However, there's still one problem. The lyrics are in German, so they have no idea what the song is actually saying. Wanting to make the experience more personal, Shizuku suggests that Tsumugi simply create her own lyrics based on the things she loves. Tsumugi pauses, thinking about what she truly likes, and as her eyes land on Hairi, her cheeks turn bright red in embarrassment. Before they leave Hairi's place that day, Shizuku leans in and casually warns Hairi that they actually used his pillows to stuff Tsumugi's chest earlier. The thought alone makes Hairi visibly flustered. To shake it off, he shouts his own name out loud, trying to snap himself back into composure. Seeing this, Tsumugi joins in with a loud, cheerful yell of her name too, followed by Shizuku. Now the three of them are standing in front of Hairi's house, shouting their names into the sky and laughing like little kids. Their voices echo throughout the quiet island. Far away, Shiro hears them while fishing in the ocean. When the shouting finally dies down, the three collapse with laughter, breathless from the chaos. Just then, a group of kids rush over. Excitedly, they announce that they've been gathering cans from the shore to help with her balcony project. Tsumugi lights up with joy and happily accepts the cans with a wide, grateful smile. That day, Shizuku has to go home early, so it's just Hairi and Tsumugi who return to the lighthouse to place the collected cans. After they finish a few errands, Tsumugi invites Hairi to climb up to the top of the lighthouse with her. From up there, the view is breathtaking. The ocean stretches endlessly before them, bathed in golden sunlight. But Tsumugi doesn't bring him there just for the view. She has something she's been holding in for a long time. And now that she's emotionally ready, she opens up. With a quiet voice, she confesses her feelings. What started as admiration for a friend has grown into something much deeper. She realizes that she loves Hairi too. His gesture of giving her his entire summer touched her in a way she can't ignore. She admits she tries to act normal around him, but her feelings always get in the way. Even as she confesses, she insists it's not important. After all, she's leaving soon. No matter how much she loves him, she believes it won't matter in the end. Hairi notices the tears silently falling down Tsumugi's cheeks. She's frustrated by how complicated everything is. But instead of letting the moment break them, Hairi gently reassures her. He tells her that saying goodbye doesn't make everything meaningless. Even if they're apart someday, their feelings will still be real. Tsumugi is relieved to hear this. So at that moment, the two finally and properly confess their love to each other. When Hairi returns home that evening, Kyoko immediately notices how unusually happy he looks. Meanwhile, Tsumugi, alone in her room at the lighthouse, hums her favorite song with a soft, dreamy smile. Later, while Kyoko tries to lift a heavy box, Hairi steps in to help. In the process, he accidentally knocks over a stack of old photos. As he picks them up one by one, his hand pauses. Among them is a photo of Sumogi. It's clearly old, her clothing is dated. Hairi wanted an answer, but he could no longer ask for one because from that moment forward, they never saw Sumogi ever again. Sumogi has been missing for a few days now, and both Hairi and Shizuku are growing increasingly concerned. Shizuku thinks she might just be feeling embarrassed now that she and Hairi are officially dating. But with a panicked tone, Hairi admits he had also confessed to Sumogi. He was planning to tell Shizuku about it when they were all together. But Sumogi's sudden disappearance left him no chance. Shizuku expresses happiness for them, but before the conversation drifts further, they refocus on their goal, finding Sumogi. The only place they've known Sumogi to live is the lighthouse. Beyond that, neither of them knows where she actually lives. Even Shizuku, who often met her there, has never been to her real home. This realization makes Hairi pause. His hand slips into his pocket, brushing against something small. But he quickly brushes the thought away, hides the object once again, and looks forward quietly. The two continue their search for Sumogi and eventually come across the store where Hairi requested a set of blue ribbons as a gift for her. By chance, the ribbons have just arrived and Hairi receives the ones he had waited for. But more than the gift, Hairi's real purpose is to ask about Sumogi. The old woman's response takes them by surprise. She says it's possible that Sumogi was spirited away. Confused, the two press her for an explanation. The vendor recounts a tale from decades ago. A young blonde girl once vanished without a trace, sparking a huge search across the island. Despite everyone's efforts, she was never found. She even remembers a young boy about Hairi's age who searched desperately for her. He was said to be the lighthouse keeper. However, beyond the story, there is nothing more the woman can offer. The only person who might have known more is Kato, who has already passed away. Walking away from the old woman's store, Hairi and Shizuku talk about how strange her story sounded. As they walk, Hairi pulls out an old photo from his pocket and shows it to Shizuku. To her surprise, the girl in the photo is clearly Sumogi, wearing traditional clothing from decades past. After hearing the vendor's tale, Hairi can't help but wonder if the girl in the story was really Sumogi. Everything seems to line up. The photo is aged and Sumogi vanished without a trace, just like the girl from the past. Looking closely at the photo, Shizuku points out something else. The structure in the background is familiar. It's the old ancestral house on the cliffside, the same one they visited during Hairi's tour around the island. Intrigued and desperate for answers, the two decide to return to the house, thinking it might be Sumogi's old home. When they step inside the house, Hairi and Shizuku call out, but no one answers. The place feels undisturbed. As they explore, they find a girl's bedroom filled with old stuffed animals neatly arranged. The room feels oddly familiar. Shizuku searches the place and eventually spots an old diary on top of the desk. Opening it, she realizes it belongs to Sumogi. Together, Hairi and Shizuku read through the pages. The entries reveal a lonely past. When Sumogi first started school on the island, her classmates ignored her for the unusual color of her hair and eyes, which is why she spent most of her time with her stuffed animals, who became her only companions. Each day passed with her being ignored, and one day, tired of being invisible, she decided to do something to finally be noticed. Sumogi once tried to gain attention by mimicking the Namahagi monster, chanting its lines in front of her class. Instead of admiration, it only made her more ignored. Yet someone eventually became her friend, Kato, a girl who also loved stuffed animals. From there, Sumogi made more friends and gradually found a sense of happiness on the island. But as Shizuku read further, she discovered something startling. Sumogi had planned to elope with the lighthouse keeper. They had fallen in love, but her parents disapproved of their relationship. Unable to bear the restrictions, Sumogi made a difficult decision to leave the island and her parents for good. The two were set to meet in the lighthouse the next day, and her last diary entry was a letter to her parents, apologizing and asking for their forgiveness. Still, something doesn't add up. The old woman said the lighthouse keeper searched desperately for Sumogi too, which means she never actually left the island with him. The thought unsettles both Hairi and Shizuku, thinking the story about her spiriting away can be true. Hairi can't shake the feeling that their Sumogi may have been spirited away too. But before he can voice his thoughts fully, Shizuku spots another note in the back of the diary. It seems to be written by another person. In it, the writer urges the people of the island not to forget her. She pleads for Sumogi to be remembered. They left the house more confused than when they arrived. Shizuku clings to fear, uncertain of what any of it means. But suddenly, a realization strikes Hairi. Without a word, he rushes off, leaving Shizuku frozen in place. Hairi runs straight to the lighthouse, where Sumogi's stuffed animals remain untouched, as if patiently waiting for her return. He speaks to them, voicing his worries and longing. Then, without warning, a blinding gust of light surrounds him and pulls him in. When Hairi opens his eyes, he's still in the lighthouse, but everything feels different. As he steps toward the window, his breath catches. The world outside is surreal, a vast field of blooming flowers stretching endlessly, and butterflies flying through the air. Hairi tries to escape through the door, but it won't budge. Desperate, he climbs the lighthouse stairs to the gallery, hoping for another exit, but every time he reaches the top, he finds himself back at the starting point. The place traps him in a looping maze. He repeats the process, clearly frustrated, until someone suddenly appears before him, Sumogi. But this isn't the Tsumugi he knows. It's the one from the old photo. Her face is the same, but her clothing and actions feel different. Still, when he speaks to her, she answers to the name. To test his suspicion, Hairi softly chants the Namahagi monster's words, the very same ones Tsumugi once mimicked in her classroom. The girl's eyes widen in recognition. That moment confirms it. He too has been spirited away, just like her. Hairi learns from Tsumugi that the only way to return home is to shout it out loud. It's a strange trick, but according to her, it has worked for others who were trapped in the same situation. However, Tsumugi herself never got the chance to leave like them. Everyone who ends up here is held back by something, though they never truly understand what it is until much later. As they talk, Tsumugi becomes curious about the other Tsumugi, the one Hairi knows. Their conversation slowly drifts to her own past. She recounts the day she was supposed to elope with the lighthouse keeper. Torn between love and family, she couldn't make a decision. To go with the man she loved meant abandoning her parents and the island forever. Fear overtook her indecision, and before she could choose, the mysterious light took her away. Since then, she's been stuck in this place. Given that Tsumugi is still trapped in this place, she must still be hesitating deep inside. Meanwhile, Hairi is here for one reason, to find the one he loves. Tsumugi understands this more than anyone. She gently tells him that if he simply thinks about his Tsumugi with full certainty, then he will be able to return to where he belongs. At that moment, Hairi finally understands. He loves Tsumugi, truly, deeply, and without question. He closes his eyes and thinks of her. Then with conviction, he begins to hum her song. Suddenly, he feels the coldness of a breeze. He looks up and sees movement above. The wind is flowing from the gallery. It means only one thing. An exit has opened and he's found a way back. He wanted to bring Tsumugi with him, but unlike Hairi, she isn't certain. Hesitation still lingers in her heart. She fears that her uncertainty might ruin Hairi's only chance of returning, so she urges him to go alone. Hairi hesitates, but eventually agrees. With each step he takes, his thoughts are filled with Tsumugi. When he finally reaches the gallery, he sees the balcony made of cans, the one they built together. He steps onto it and slowly climbs down the ladder. And just like before, the world becomes brighter until he is swallowed once again by the light. Slowly, Hairi begins to wake up, his vision adjusting as he hears Shizuku's panicked voice calling out to him. When he fully regains consciousness, he finds himself lying on the lighthouse floor with both Shizuku and Tsumugi crying beside him, terrified that he wouldn't wake up. As it turns out, after Hairi rushed off, Shizuku had stayed at the lighthouse waiting. That was when Tsumugi suddenly appeared. But just as they were finally reunited, Hairi vanished. The fear of losing both of them overwhelmed Shizuku. Seeing her tears, Hairi can only offer a heartfelt apology, grateful to be back. However, when Hairi sees Tsumugi again, he can't contain his joy and immediately pulls her into a tight embrace. Tsumugi, who is stunned at first, eventually gives in and wraps her arms around him just as tightly. Shizuku, watching the heartfelt reunion between the two, can't help but cry tears of happiness. Hairi is surprised to learn that he had disappeared for an entire day. As he tries to recall where he had been, the memories begin to blur and fade, until eventually he remembers almost nothing. But one thing remains clear in his mind. He saw someone who looked just like Tsumugi, only dressed in traditional clothing. When Hairi gets home that night, he brings Tsumugi with him. Kyoko scolds him right away for making her worry so much, especially since Umi had worried herself to sleep too. He knows he'll have to apologize properly to her in the morning. Since it's already late, Kyoko suggests that Tsumugi stay the night at their home. Later, as Hairi prepares to sleep, a shadow appears by his door. It's Tsumugi, wanting to talk before they drift off. He lets her in and she quietly sits in front of him. Tsumugi then admits something she's been holding back. When she says she was leaving, it wasn't in the way he might have imagined. It wasn't just going abroad or moving away, it was something different entirely. But Hairi doesn't need her to explain further. He gently cuts her off and tells her that whatever it is, his feelings won't change. If anything, he wants more time with her. He promises that no matter what happens, he's sure of one thing. He wants to spend his summer days with Tsumugi. Touched by his words, Tsumugi can't hold back her tears. She quietly cries, admitting that she too wants to stay with Hairi forever. After a moment of silence, Hairi confesses something. He remembers meeting someone while he was gone. It was Tsumugi, the one from the old photo. Apart from that memory, everything else has faded. But that one encounter stayed with him. Tsumugi listens closely. She's happy to hear this, relieved even. This stirs a memory in Hairi. He recalls the first time he met Tsumugi at the lighthouse. Back then, she mentioned she was looking for something, herself. Now he wonders if what she truly meant was that she was searching for the Tsumugi who had been spirited away. Tsumugi quietly confirms it. Yes, that was her reason all along. That's why she must leave after summer. She needs to return to Tsumugi. Now that Hairi has found her, she can finally come home. But to Hairi, this feels painfully unfair. If Tsumugi leaves, then he will be the one left behind, forced to live with the loneliness she leaves in her place. Still, Tsumugi insists. Even though she will miss Hairi just as much, what he's asking of her is selfish. It would only confuse her, and if that happens, she'll no longer know who to choose. At that moment, Hairi remembers the gift he had prepared for her. Quietly, he takes out the blue ribbon and offers it to Tsumugi as a symbol of his feelings. Tsumugi's eyes widen with joy. She loves it. Without hesitation, she ties it into her hair. Seeing how beautiful she looks with the ribbon, Hairi can't help but stare. Then, slowly, he leans forward and kisses her gently. That night becomes a treasured memory for both of them. But as they hold each other and they know it's already 1 week before August 31st, their love story is just beginning, but their summer is almost over. Hairi wakes up the next morning with Tsumugi asleep beside him, the memories of the night before still vivid in his mind. As he turns toward the door, he catches a glimpse of someone peeking in. It's only Shizuku, who had been quietly worrying they might vanish again without warning. Relieved, Hairi invites her inside. Shizuku walks over to Tsumugi and softly shares something she recently discovered. Through Tsumugi's diary, she's learned the true meaning behind her words about going back, her real purpose for being here. But Hairi doesn't want to hear it. Whatever the truth is, he no longer cares. What matters to him now is making the most of what little time he has left with Tsumugi. He begins to suggest a bold idea, but before he can say more, Tsumugi stirs and opens her eyes. She smiles gently, seeing her two closest friends together. But time is slowly passing by, and before they know it, it's already the 24th of August. Once they're finally outside, Hairi puts his bold idea into motion. With a wide grin, he greets Tsumugi with a cheerful, happy new year. Pretending it's the first day of January, his plan is simple: to live out an entire year's worth of memories within the few days they have left of summer. Holidays, birthdays, festivals, everything packed into the time they still have. Shizuku instantly loves the idea, imagining how they could celebrate Halloween, Christmas, and more like it was all real. Tsumugi, at first hesitant, is quickly comforted by their warmth and excitement. Encouraged by Hairi and Shizuku's enthusiasm, she chooses to embrace it. From that moment, the three decide to live their summer as if it were a full lifetime. They head to the shaded ice store and enlist the help of O and Shiroha. Shiroha isn't sure at first why she should join, but a taste of a watermelon popsicle convinces her without much effort. To everyone's surprise, the idea quickly catches on. Their plan is met with support from the townspeople, who respond with unexpected excitement and positivity, eager to help make each day unforgettable. Later that day, Shizuku and Hairi walk side by side, quietly discussing how to bring their plan to life. As they go over the details, Hairi brings up another idea. On the final day of August, they could throw a birthday party for Tsumugi, a surprise celebration meant to make their last day together more meaningful. Shizuku agrees, and with that, their final week is set into motion. They spend their days creating a year's worth of memories. They go fishing in the ocean under the bright summer sun, pretending it's the peak of the season. They celebrate Valentine's Day, exchanging gifts as lovers. They even create fake snow, letting artificial flakes fall gently despite the summer heat. Each day becomes a celebration of a different season or holiday, all squeezed into their final week together. As the week nears its end, they head out for one last camping trip. They gather around the bonfire and put on their Halloween costumes. That night, they gather together and look up at the stars. Beneath the night sky, Tsumugi's quiet smile says it all. She is deeply, truly happy. Until the 30th of August arrives and they decide to celebrate Christmas together. Tsumugi prepares small presents for both Shizuku and Hairi. To their surprise, she gives each of them a spare key to the lighthouse. With those keys, they can always return to the place where their memories began, even if she's no longer there. Hairi chuckles and teases her for being so bold, saying it's quite straightforward of her to give her boyfriend a spare key. Then Shizuku pulls out a pink box tied with a ribbon and hands it to Tsumugi. As Tsumugi unwraps the gift, her eyes widen in disbelief. It's a bikini. The three of them burst into laughter, joking around about it and letting the joy of the moment carry them. But in the middle of their laughter, Tsumugi suddenly breaks down in tears. She cries like a child, unable to hold back the emotion. It isn't the gift, it's the reality that this summer is nearing its end. She doesn't want to say goodbye, doesn't want to leave. She wants to stay right here with the people who made her final summer feel like an entire lifetime. Seeing her friend in distress, Shizuku gently embraces Tsumugi to offer comfort. Tsumugi worries about what will happen tomorrow, but Shizuku reassures her with soft certainty that no matter what, they will enjoy each day. Although it's only a small lie meant to ease her heart, Hairi supports Shizuku's words, hoping to lift Tsumugi's spirits. Tsumugi wipes her tears, slowly regaining composure, though she still struggles to believe how much they truly care for her. But the answer is simple: they love her. They want her to smile, even if only for a little longer, and Tsumugi, in return, cherishes both of them deeply. But no matter how hard they try to stretch time, the inevitable arrives. When the clock passes midnight, summer break enters its final day. It is now August 31st. The next morning, Shizuku excuses herself, saying she needs to prepare something and must head home early. She leaves Tsumugi in Hairi's care. Although Tsumugi wants to spend more time with Shizuku, there's nothing she can do. So as Shizuku walks away, Tsumugi quietly watches her go, eyes brimming with tears. Hairi and Tsumugi remain standing in silence until a sudden gust of wind blows through. Hairi instinctively shields his face and closes his eyes. But when he opens them again, a wave of dread washes over him. Tsumugi is gone. Panic rises quickly in his chest as he spins around, searching the area in fear that he lost Tsumugi already. Just as the fear begins to settle in, he looks outside again, and there she is. Tsumugi stands there as if nothing happened. Hairi is relieved to see Tsumugi standing there safe. He longs to hear her say how much she loves him one last time, to remember everything, even her voice. Sumogi feels the same and silently urges him to do the same. So they exchange their I love yous. Hairi then embraces her tightly in front of the lighthouse. That night, when the clock strikes 7, Hairi begins to speak about something that is about to happen. Though Sumogi tries to understand, his answers remain vague and elusive. At first, she thinks he's simply being mean, but when he gently takes her hand, leads her outside, and opens the door for her, she finally realizes what he means. Outside, the lighthouse is glowing with the soft light of countless candles, forming a path that stretches out before them. It is a surprise birthday celebration for Sumogi. Since it's her final day on the island, they want her to have a lifetime's worth of candles to blow out. She is stunned by the sheer number, wondering how they managed to gather so many. It turns out they didn't do it alone. The youth group from the island also helped, crafting each candle from cans they had collected over time, eager to make Sumogi's last summer unforgettable. Hairi reaches out his hand and Sumogi gladly takes it. Together, they walk down the candlelit path. In that moment, she feels overwhelmed with gratitude for the friends she has found and the memories they created. The candles stretch far and wide, reaching even to the seashore where Sumogi and Hairi sit together. There, they quietly talk about her past. As it turns out, the Sumogi from long ago was once her friend. The song she always hums is the same song that Sumogi used to sing back then. However, she never had many friends, so she rarely had the chance to share it with anyone. Stuffed animals had been Sumogi's best friends until she met Kato, who became her closest companion. Later, she fell in love with the lighthouse keeper. Together, they planned to flee the island, but before they could, she vanished. It turned out that Sumogi had read her diary, which was how she learned all of this. The final entries, written in a different handwriting, were her own. She had sworn to keep the original Sumogi's memories alive. She held on to the hope that one day the real Sumogi would return. Until then, she would take her place. She did all of this so that no one would ever forget her again. But despite her efforts, each time she asked people about Sumogi, they seemed to have already forgotten. As time passed, fewer and fewer remembered her at all. Until one day, Kato found her and gently advised her to start doing what she truly wanted. But the truth was, she didn't know what she wanted yet. It was then she decided to make friends of her own before the real Sumogi returned, because if that day came, she knew she would have to leave. In that process, she met Shizuku, who also loves stuffed animals, and slowly she fell in love with Hairi. These moments, these feelings, they were no longer about becoming Sumogi. They were hers alone. Through time, she makes several friends and comes to know true happiness. Now that she meets all of them, there is so much she wants to do next, like spending the winter with Hairi and Shizuku or swimming at the beach when summer arrives. She imagines them wearing yukatas during festivals, and even the petty arguments they might have along the way feel precious in her mind. Hairi silently agrees with everything Sumogi says. Even though she knows her time is short, she still looks forward to making memories with Shizuku and Hairi tomorrow and for as long as she can. She even names her friends one by one, looking forward to the amazing memories they can make along the way. However, when Sumogi turns to Hairi, he is already crying. The realization that she won't be with them in the coming days weighs heavily on him. Still, Sumogi comforts him. Even though her time is almost up, the memories they created together fill her heart with joy. In that moment, they decide to enjoy what little time remains. As Sumogi gazes out at the view, she reflects on how beautiful her summer has become. Then for the first time, she sings her song, this time with lyrics. She sings of searching for herself, of standing by the lighthouse and humming melodies so that someone might find her. She sings of the summer they shared, how they searched for cans at the sea to build the lighthouse balcony, how they played in the ocean and laughed beneath the sun. She remembers the moment she and Hairi held hands for the first time and how they quietly became lovers in the gallery of the lighthouse watching the sunset paint the sky. She sings about how deeply she loves both Hairi and Shizuku, how she treasures their friendship above all, and how she will never forget everything that happened this summer on the island. Her voice is soft as her head rests gently on Hairi's shoulder, surrounded by candlelight, facing the ocean under the moonlit sky. But even the most beautiful moments must come to an end. As the clock approaches midnight, Sumogi is no longer there. The one leaning on Hairi's shoulder is now just a stuffed animal. Hairi remains quiet, so Shizuku joins him, sitting silently by his side. He lets out a soft sob, unable to hold it back, and Shizuku offers a gentle smile as she remembers Sumogi's final moments with them and quietly wishes her a happy birthday one last time. The next day, Hairi and Shizuku meet at the ship station, where they quietly reminisce about their summer and Sumogi. Looking back, everything feels surreal. Meeting someone in an unfamiliar place and having the best time of your life is a rare kind of miracle. But like all good things, summer must come to an end. In their case, Sumogi became summer break itself, a beautiful moment they will always carry. As they continue talking, a soft humming interrupts them. They turn to look and are surprised to see a young girl with her mother humming Sumogi's song. The child casually explains that she learned it from a friend and is excited to see her again next year. Of course, Hairi knows there will be no next year, but summer break will come again soon, and a part of him still hopes to see her once more. Sumogi's humming voice continues to echo throughout the island as if she never left. In truth, she is now in a place far away, a land full of flowers. A year later, Hairi and Shizuku return to the lighthouse, just as they promised. In that moment, it feels like Sumogi is there, welcoming them home with the same gentle smile. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss new episodes every week.